What's going on? It's your host with the most, and you know it's the real Taylor Nicole. We back at it again with another episode of Movies with Tay. I hope you guys have been enjoying the content, and I hope the quality is becoming better for you guys. I still want to let you guys know that I have quite a few projects in the works, so some projects have unfortunately been getting pushed to the back burner by accident, not on purpose, by accident. Um, Anguished of season 2. I still don't have a release date for it. Unfortunately, we have not started production on that just yet. But we will eventually. I also got some more things that I want to try to get into the works for you guys, whether it comes out this year or it comes out next year, but I'm still out here making progress for you guys on things. But still going to keep bringing you guys this content for the Movies with Tay up until the 60th episode, which would be the season finale for Movies with Tay. When I bring Movies with Tay back, it will be rebranded. It will be different. It'll be a little more exciting, hopefully, for you guys. As of right now, I'm going to continue out the season the way I started it. And like I said, when I bring season 2 of Movies with Tay back, it'll probably be bigger, better than ever. But when season 1 ends for Movies with Tay, TV shows with Tay will pop up. And with that one, it's going to be a little bit more conversational based. It's going to be more of me picking apart, a specific episode or a specific TV show in general, and just kind of going over the overall TV show. And at times, I may, like I said, break down a specific character or a specific episode that was very controversial, and kind of give my personal take on it. So TV shows with Tay. I'm sorry, is going to be a little bit different than Movies with Tay, because it's a lot more TV shows out here, and a lot more things to sequentially talk about than as for as a movie. Honestly, so because there's episode by episode, right? So Movies with Tay is going to go on a hiatus. We have approximately seven or eight more episodes after this one airs, and then we'll be jumping into another realm. I hope you guys are excited and ready for it. I'm a little nervous for it, but I'm ready for that new venture. Also, like I said, eventually things on this channel will probably fade out and be put onto its own channel. Like, for instance, Black History with Tay will probably get moved to its own Black History channel. I will still keep whatever is on here, but eventually the Black History stuff will get moved to its own channel. I know it's a lot more work for me to maintain and remember what channels to upload what to, but it's necessary for me to make these adjustments to help these channels actually grow. It's also necessary for me to be able to show a group of audience what they're wanting to see without having to hunt for it. So pretty soon, Black History with Tay will go to its own channel, and so will all my miniature skits and miniseries and any other movies that I create will go to its own personal channel. So eventually your girl's gonna have 4 different channels. It's a lot. It is. I know it's a lot. But I also spend time doing these individual projects, so it won't be a lot to put them on their own channel. It is a lot to monitor all those channels, but it's worth it for what I want to do. And eventually I'll probably get a team that can help me make sure all the stuff gets uploaded and taken care of and so forth and so forth. But I wanted to give you guys a heads up about that. That way, once again, if when it happens, you guys aren't shocked by it. It's not like a big shocker. It doesn't throw you for a loop and you're not like, what the hell? And then eventually too, I'll probably get new mics, so you won't have to stare at this mic that sits on my head all the time. I plan on making the podcast more entertaining for you guys. I'm learning bit by bit, and I'm getting better bit by bit. So I do appreciate everyone who sticks around with me. But without further ado, this is another episode of Movies with Tay. I do want to start off by saying I apologize ahead of time to Mr. Bellamy, because I did tell him that this episode was supposed to be about the movie he asked me to do. Unfortunately, I didn't realize I did it out of order. So, Mr. Bellamy, if you're watching this, your episode that you requested is dropping on the 25th. I did not forget. I just accidentally did them out of order by accident. So your episode will drop on the 25th. You always watch them, so I like to make sure I give you what you asked for. So your episode is dropping on the 25th of July. And I'm going to drop it early. I think I'm dropping it at noon. So, if you decide you want to watch it a little early, then you can, but I'm dropping it a little early. Once again, like I said, let's jump into another episode of Movies with Tay. This is episode 52. The name of the movie is Stalked Within. The movie runs for about an hour and 22 minutes. The movie was released September 8th, 2022. The director of this film is Mr. Glenn Owen. The producers of this film was Chuck West and Bree West. The writers of this film was Mr. Glenn Owen and Meredith Owen. You can watch this film on BET Plus, Pluto TV, YouTube TV, and YouTube. Sling TV, Amazon Prime Video. Once again, that's BET Plus, Pluto TV, YouTube TV, and YouTube. Sling TV and Amazon Prime Video. This is a BET Plus original, so if you have BET Plus, go ahead and watch it for free on there. You can watch it free on Pluto TV as well. The people who acted in this film, the characters, is Miss Megan Tandy as Sarah Green, Wes Brown as Gary Owen. Nope, not Gary Owen. I want to say Gary Owen so bad. The actors and actresses in this film was Megan Tandy as Sarah Green, Wes Brown as Gary Myers, Giovanni Gopardi as Frank, Brayley Evans as Trina, Bakari Blockton as Jalen, and Damian Lamar Lockhart as Donald. Once again, that was Megan Tandy as Sarah Green, Wes Brown as Gary Myers, Giovanni Gopardi as Frank, Brayley Evans as Trina, and Bakari Blockton as Jalen, and Damian Lamar Lockhart as Donald. That is the cast and crew for this film. And if you hear a dog barking in the background, that's not my dog. That's someone else's dog outside. So the movie opens up with us, which, I'm sorry, I jumped right ahead. Let me back up a little bit. Hold on. Before I actually jump in to tell you guys what's going on, I still, like I said, want to say thank you to everyone who tunes in week after week. I gladly appreciate it. I thank you all for watching. I thank you all for tuning in. Whether you're listening on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, and I appreciate it. And for those of you that listen on Apple Podcasting and Spotify, if you're not tuned into my YouTube channel for the Black History now, I would suggest getting locked in, because once I move the channel to its own, or move the series to its own channel, you'll want to be aware. So, I mean, you'll still hear it on my podcast on here. I'll still make sure I announce it, so that way anyone who's listening on Apple or Spotify is aware of, like, hey, she has other content elsewhere. So that way you guys can keep in tune with me. But once again, I thank you all for tuning in. I really do, really, truly appreciate it. But let's jump into the second segment. So this is us recapping the film and also kind of giving a little bit of our insight as we recap the film. So the movie opens up with a white guy who's breaking in homes and, burglarizing them. Apparently, this is the same neighborhood that our main character, Sarah, moved into, right? So she's just now moving into that neighborhood, and it's already break-ins going on. She's not aware of that, of course, but, when she moves in, she's getting a security camera from Safe House Security. And they're going to be installing stuff. Now, when she first moved in, though, her mother and her son were there. It's just her and her mother. Her mother doesn't live with her, but they were there helping her move in. We find out that Sarah actually was married, but unfortunately her husband passed away. So her and her son Jalen are moving into a new house to start over. And Sarah is getting a security alarm installed into the home. And she just wanted a regular security alarm, but the installator guy was like, we're going to also install your cameras. In her gut, originally she felt like she didn't need the cameras. She really didn't want them. But her mom convinced her that it was necessary and that she should definitely take them. So she did what her mom suggested. Now, while this is all going on, we get introduced to the character Gary. And Gary is looks like a typical normal white guy looking for employment, and he puts an application for a security company, which is the same security company she's getting her stuff installed for, a Safe House. And he basically gets the job, and he goes through his little training, and he gives this, I don't know, like his training, the training course that they were in, like what she had them do to try to scare off a burglar. I'm like, I wouldn't have been scared of that shit. Somebody saying, hey, This is safe house security. The police are on the way. Leave. That's not gonna scare nobody. Especially when you coming through a mic, you're not here. You're not physically in the home. You're not really scaring anybody. It'd be different if they'd be like, I'm coming downstairs and I'm about to put this hammer on you. That probably would have scared somebody, but not you yelling that the police are on their way. I could still rob this place and get up out of here before the police get here. But anyway, so Gary ends up getting a job and he's at a little lunch break with Trina and a guy named Kevin. Now, some of these people were just extras for a reason, but they were necessary to say the least. So, Trina and Gary are sitting down having lunch talking, right? And she's explaining to Gary that she wants to be part of the GBSI, which is the Georgia Bureau. I forget, was it GBSI or was it GSBI? It was GSBI, Georgia State Bureau Investigators. Is what she wanted to be a part of. And they were having a conversation about that. Well, while they were having a conversation, their coworker Kevin was popping some popcorn in the microwave. He burned the popcorn. It smelled like stank popcorn. And Gary was like, basically, like he's being inconsiderate. He kind of was trying to like punk Kevin about the burnt popcorn. And everybody's like, dude, relax. It's just burnt popcorn. He like, nah, it could be burnt popcorn today and it's somebody's life tomorrow. He was taking it to the extreme. But that was strike one for Trina when it came to him, because she's like, okay, you might be a little cuckoo, or you might just be a little power hungry, or maybe. But she digressed. She let it be. They continued to have a little joking, friendly coworker conversation or whatever. Now, Sarah ends up dropping her son off to school, and when she drops her son off at school, she runs into an old friend that she went to school with, Frank. Her and Frank have this little conversation. They catch up, blah, blah, blah. He invites her to go hang out with him and his friends and, all this good jazz. He knew her husband, he doing all the inappropriate shit. Her husband just died not too long ago. He over here flirting with her, basically. But she ends up having a head gasket problem with her car. Like, some of this stuff is just minute stuff, so I'm kind of running through it because it's minute. But anyway, she ends up having a problem with her car. Excuse me. She ends up having a problem with her car. And she calls a mechanic, blah blah blah. While she's at home on a call talking to the mechanic, the same guy from the beginning of the movie is breaking into her home now. And the security alarms go off, and guess who gets the alert? Gary. Gary gets the alert, and he pops on the camera. He sees the guy breaking in. He doesn't see her at first. He just sees the guy on the camera breaking in through the back door. And he does his little, hey, get out of here. The police are on their way. Leave the house now. Leave the house now. And dude scurries off, right? Little white dude, he scurries off. But when he goes to scurries off, he tells her, he's still on the camera, right? He ends up telling her, like, I'm gonna stay on until the police come, blah, 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 making her feel safe. His job, right? He's doing his job. Nothing wrong with it, right? Well, maybe like a day or so after that incident happened, she gets a call from the head corporation lady for Safe House Security, and she asked her if Sarah would mind doing a commercial for them to explain what happened to her and how Safe House, basically to boost their revenue, is what they were doing, and they were going to compensate her $10,000 to do the commercial, blah 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 blah. So, like, at first she was like, nah, I don't want to do it. But when they weighed that $10,000 in her face, she was like, yeah, I'll do it. So she goes to do the interview. And she's doing the commercial explaining, how Safe House saved her life and blah, blah, blah. They bring Gary in so she can meet the person who took the call, the first responder. Now, to me, I understand that they do commercials like this where the first responder and the victim do commercials together to, boost the sales and the revenue. But I thought it was a little strange that was her first incident with y'all, and y'all instantly was like, let's use her. Instantly. That was her first incident with y'all. But I digress. So they do the commercial. After they do the commercial, Gary, little creepy ass, he sticks around and waits for her to get done so that he can talk to her. And it was genuine, it seemed genuine to her, the conversation that they were having. It just seemed genuine to her. So she just held a normal conversation with him, not interested in him at all, but you can clearly tell he's interested in her because he's making little flirty comments and whatever. So he lies and tells her that he's going to become the VP, and no, I'm sorry, not become the VP. He is the VP, and that he's actually undercover. He's monitoring the company to see what ways they can improve from the outside in, and he's got to work all departments to kind of learn what departments need development, right? She believes it, and she's like, okay, cool. So they say their goodbyes. He goes on. This crazy fool goes home and downloads the work company stuff to pull her cameras onto his personal computer so he can watch her while he's at home and while she's at home. And nobody knows that. Nobody, notices that. Just, he's spying on her. Well, while he's spying on her, he ends up, hold on. That's what it was. He ends up listening to her conversations on the phone, right? And he does this multiple times throughout the film where he's listening into her conversations through the camera. But this first time when he did it, he was listening into the conversation and found out where she was going to be meeting her sister for lunch, right? They meet at like a little coffee shop. He pops up at the same coffee shop. Now, he didn't Googled her. He didn't researched her. He knows all about her. He knows she has a son. He knows her husband died. He knows that she's a real estate agent. He knows everything he can get his hands on publicly. He knows about her. So when he pops up to the coffee shop, he lies and tells her he's in the market for a home. But really, that was his way of trying to get close to her. Now, to most people, when this happens in a film, most people see this as like him trying to make a move, him trying to, be proactive. It's creepy. It's never okay to do stuff like this, ever. But, she don't pay no mind to it. She gives him her business card and they start going to go meet up and talk about houses, Well, when she met him over coffee and kind of like laid out some houses for him and, kind of caught his vibe on his price range and everything, he's flirting with her. She picks up on it instantly. She notices that he's flirting with her because he's touching her hand and he's, trying to be romantic in a situation that didn't deserve it or need it at that matter. So she clearly ain't interested in him. He gets the hint, but he don't get the hint because he's one of those. And she talks to him about houses. She talks about doing house tours with him. And she takes him on a house tour for one house in particular. And he's imagining the house to be her and her son and him in this house together as a family. And she's just imagining the house as a sale. That's it. That's all. So the next day, Gary goes to go visit his mother. Now, this is where we start to find the root of Gary's problems and where he has like psychopathic issues at. We find out from Gary's mother that this is not Gary's first time being obsessed with a woman. We also find that Gary's father is very abusive and was very abusive to his mother, which is why she feels like Gary is how he is, because she took too long to take him out of that environment, so it rubbed off on him. But Gary has had plenty of run-ins with women. He almost went to jail for almost killing a girl. He was stalking a girl and had to leave Chicago to avoid going to prison. So there was a lot that he was going through. This mother sucker ends up lying to his mama, and she knew he was lying. She looked at her son, and she can tell her son was lying. But he lies and tells his mama that he met him a girl, they got a woman, and they plan on getting married, and this, that, and the third. He's lying to his mama because he really, truly believes this in his head that he's going to force Sarah to marry him and make her his wife. And his mama looking at him like, okay, whatever you say. So we get to see even more psychopathic instincts with Gary. When Gary's mama was breaking down to him that he real life is crazy and she know he crazy because of his father, he snaps on his own mama. And she's like, Lord have mercy. Now his mama's ill. She got cancer. So she kind of already knew her days was numbered. So she probably was, I hate to say it, but she probably thinking to herself, Lord, I ain't going to be dealing with this psychopath no more once I pass away. Well, Sarah ends up running into Frank. This movie jumps around from scene to scene, but it kind of coincides with each other. Sarah runs into Frank at their kid's soccer game. She finds out Frank's the coach for his daughter's soccer team, and she's just a mother of of her son, of course. So she's not the coach or nothing like that. She's just his mama who comes to the things. Now, Frank is steadily flirting with Sarah, but Sarah's interested in Frank. She's always liked Frank since they was in high school. And he invites her out on a real date. And well, no, I'm sorry, not a real, well, technically a real date, but he covers it up by saying hang out with him and his friends, but it really was a real date to him. So he asked her out to go, you know, hang out with the friends. Let me make sure. Hold on. Yeah, he asked her to go hang out with a bunch of friends. That's what they do. They go hang out with a bunch of friends. And while they're hanging out with those friends, he asked her out on a real date at that point. And she's like, cool, works for me. She's still showing houses to creepy Gary. And Gary, creepy tail self, tells her that he's not really on the market for a house anymore because he thinks it's going to become a conflict of interest because he likes her and wants to take her on a date and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, I can't, I don't mix business with pleasure. And he's like, you can, you just don't want to. And that's really what she should have just told him is that I'm not interested, I'm seeing someone. That's really what she should have told him. Granted, it wouldn't have changed Crazy Gary's mind, but at least putting it out there so that way it's out there. I'm not interested. I'm cool. Well, when she basically tells him no, but without saying no, really, he tells her good luck to you, right? Now we all know when a motherfucker say good luck to you, they got something up their sleeve. They really don't mean that shit. So Sarah's hanging out with her sister at home, and once again, Gary's spying on her. He's listening to their conversation. He finds out about their date that they're going to be going on, and this puts him in a full blown stalker mode. So now she's out with Frank on her little date, and he's in her house planting cameras, snooping through her stuff, just doing all kind of stuff, and even breaking into like her personal laptop and stealing shit so he can put GPS trackers on her phone and all other kind of stuff, and just doing all kind of shit, right? Well, Frank and Sarah, while they're on their little date, they run into Trina. And before they ran into Trina, we found out Frank was married to a woman who left him for an NFL player. And then this is when we find out that it's confirmed Sarah's husband did die. She don't really talk about it like that, but it's confirmed that he died. Well, they ran into Trina, and Trina remembers Frank because she was best friends with Frank's sister. And she remembers Sarah, of course, from the commercial, but also too, she was catching Gary doing some creepy shit, like watching the commercial over and over again. So that was strike two for Trina when it came to Gary. She seen him snap in the lunchroom, and then she catches him watching the recording, the commercial of him and Sarah. So that's strike two for Trina on Gary. Well, anyway, so they bump into Trina, and while they bump into Trina, we still see Gary is still inside Sarah's home, right? And this crazy fool waited for her to come home. She comes home, he hides, and he waits and waits and waits until she passes out. When she passes out, he finally leaves the home, right? He leaves out her home, and she don't never think to check her cameras. That's another thing that pissed me off about Sarah. But I'm going to get into that in a second. But she don't check her camera. She don't even notice that he was in the house. She don't sense nothing. This man walked right past her while she was asleep on her couch, and she didn't notice nothing. She slept all the way through. And while she's sleeping, he gets into his car, and his petty ass hits something on his phone to make her house go out of whack. Music playing, blasting, lights flashing, TV flashing. Her house is just in chaos. And it wakes her up. And she's like, what the hell? She still don't think nothing of it. She just think that it was just a malfunction. Well, hold on, I'm sorry. So Gary is back at his place now. And he originally was going to send her a text message, or at least he typed out a text message and told her she was a piece of shit and he hoped she died. But he erased it and sent her another little message. I didn't really read his crazy ass message because he's crazy. But it was basically along the lines of him probably wanting to go on a date with her, whatever. Well, He's watching her on the camera to see if she's gonna respond back to his text message. She don't. Instead, she get a phone call from Frank, who invites her to a play, and he overhears it. Now he big mad, and he like, so you gonna answer this dude's message, but not mine? Got it. So her and Frank are not a play, not just yet. I'm sorry, not the play just yet. He eventually gonna tell her about that, but Frank invited her on another date. That's what it was. I'm sorry. Frank invites her on another date, and they go on a date. Who pops up? Gary pops up, and Gary pops up, but he pops up in a creepier way. He sends them a 2 glasses of wine to their table first, right? After he does that, he pulls up, has a seat at the table, very invasive in their private moment, and Sarah ends up looking at Frank like, get him out of here. So Frank ends up, telling him like, basically, skedaddle, we trying to have dinner, blah, blah, blah. Gary leaves. Gary ends up also paying for not only the drink that he sent, but their meal, right? And he's smirking because he's like, I'm going to win this battle. I'm going to win this war, right? They go, Frank takes Sarah home. They, kissing on the steps and whatever. And Gary's just watching it like a creep. He's just soaking it up. And Gary has access to all of Sarah's shit now. Remember, he broke in her house and he was hacking at all her stuff. So he intentionally removes off the calendar who was supposed to be picking up her son. He removes it out completely so he can go up there and have time to basically be in her son's face. So he does that. He deletes the person that's supposed to go pick up her son. He deletes that information out of the system. So he goes to the soccer practice where her son is, and he pretends like he don't know who her son is, and he's over to pretend like he was a professional soccer player. He's, faking it, right? Then his creepy tail self tries to take her son and another little boy to another field and quote unquote trying to teach them soccer moves or whatever. And Jalen's like, well, let me call my mom first before we do that to make sure that's okay. Smart kid. I love that. That was smart. Calls his mama, tells his mom what's going on. She's like, no, Kim's supposed to be picking you up. Don't go to some other field. Stay where you're supposed to be at. And he does what he's supposed to, but see, Gary has a tracker on Sarah's car, or on her phone, I mean. So he's tracking her every move. So he can tell when she's getting close. He realizes that she's almost there, and he basically tells her son, have a good soccer practice, blah, 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 and he walks off. Sarah, as she's walking up, she sees him walking off. So she knew it was him, right? And the next day, her and her son are coming from the coffee shop. He had just had a game. They won their tournament or whatever the case may be. But they're coming from the little coffee shop. He's got his little hot cocoa. She got her coffee or whatever the case may be, right? And Gary walks right in. Tries to play like he didn't know that was her son. Tries to pretend like, he just coincidentally popped up there. And she tells him, you keep coming for me and my son, and I'm going to kick your ass. I'm going to take you out. Leave me and my child alone. And Gary's like, whatever, girl. So she talks to her sister about the incident. Her sister's like, hey, file a report, make a complaint. She does just that. But just in typical old fashioned, what happens when you call a business and make a complaint? 9 times out of 10, they're not going to do anything about it. And that's exactly what happened. The supervisor tells her that Gary's one of their best employees. He's, very sufficient, that they just might be coincidental. He just basically trying to cover for his employee and didn't want to take her complaint serious. So Sarah's like, he's not taking my complaint serious. So hold on. Okay. Well, anyway, so the next day at work, Trina, I think she was trying to test Gary because she ends up telling Gary, like, I ran into Frank and Sarah, but he don't really know who they are. And she's telling him about it. Gary don't want to hear about it. He walks off. So that's strike three for Trina about Gary, his instant attitude about Frank and Sarah. So what's I gonna say? Oh, so after that little incident, Gary sneaks into to Sarah's house and he spikes her wine, right? So he spikes her wine, he goes down to the basement and he pretty much waits for her to pass out from whatever he put in her wine. And she's on the phone with Frank, they're talking, and he's still stalking her downstairs in her basement, watching her on cameras that he stored in her room. She's talking to Frank, she gets tired, ends up passing out. Creepy old Gary comes up the stairs, because he knows she's passed out now. He comes up the stairs, sneaks into her bedroom, and kisses on her, touching all on her, snatching the cover off of her, taking pictures with her. Like, he's just being straight up weird. Well, he ends up hearing her son calling her name. He grabs her son's picture off her table and dips out. Her son comes in there, he like, Mama, yo, he panics, is my main response. Calls his grandparents and his aunt. They come over and they're like, checking on her. Now, Sarah's mama was the only one who felt like something strange was really going on and it wasn't coincidental. Her daddy and her sister, however, felt like their mama was over exaggerating. But Sarah knew her mama wasn't over exaggerating. She knew what was really going on. She just kept trying to ignore it. Well, after the family, scene ends, Gary ends up going to work the next day, gets called into the office. Now, Gary think he about to get fired. So he's bracing himself to getting fired. Well, he ends up finding out that he gets promoted. And Trina thought he was getting fired too. But see, when Trina was outside, she noticed the GPS tracker on his phone. She's seen it. And she's like, what the fuck is this? Like, what is this dude really into? So that's strike 4. And all these strikes keep making her more and more suspicious about Gary. So when he comes out and he tells her he got promoted, she's like, oh, hell no. There's something wrong with this dude. So now Gary's mother passes away. Now he go full psycho mode, full stalker mode, because his mama done passed away. So now he really don't have nobody. His mama passed away. He on his own. So Frank invited Sarah to a play, right? Sarah ends up noticing, after her little conversation with Frank, Sarah ends up noticing that her picture of her son is missing. She thinks her son moved it, but no, it was taken. But she finally notices it. So Frank is getting ready to come outside to get ready to take Sarah to the play. Well, Gary pops up and catches him off guard and damn near beats Frank to death, right? Sarah gets mad because she thinks Frank stood her up that night, which I don't know why you would think he stood you up. Instead of thinking something could have really happened to this man because he ain't stood you up before. So she think he got stood up. Trina finds out that Gary lied. Gary's father is an inmate, not a police officer, because he was lying, telling people his daddy was a police officer. She also finds out a little bit more about him and realizes Sarah's actually in danger. So Sarah ends up at the same time finding out what happened to Frank from social media. She realizes that Frank was attacked. So Gary still doing stuff on the inside. He blocks Frank's phone number so he can't call her, so messages won't go through, and she didn't even notice it. And then she tried to be oblivious to her son. Her son told her, like, Mama, last night somebody was in here. I seen somebody in my doorway. And she tried to tell her son he was tripping instead of listening to her child who clearly seen somebody. He ain't never said it before, but now he's telling you he's seen somebody. And then you also know all this weird shit going on. Once again, trying to be oblivious and act like nothing's going on. Well, Frank's neighbor ended up coming to Frank's house and letting him know, like, my camera picked up a man leaving from your house tonight. You got attacked. And he's taking his mask off and blah, blah, blah. So in that process, Frank also ends up getting a call from Trina. And Trina tells Frank about Gary. And Frank tries to call Sarah and warn Sarah about Gary, but once again, his number's blocked. So Trina also tried to call Sarah. Nobody's getting through to Sarah, right? So they go to their supervisor. They tell Trina, I skipped something. Let me back up real quick. When Trina found out something was up with Gary, Trina went to their IT department guy, Donald, and told Donald she needs his help to find out what's really going on with Gary. And they figure out that Gary has hacked into the work system for at home. He's tracking Sarah. They find all this stuff out, and they take it to their superior who promoted Gary. And their superior steadily basically like, he don't want to do nothing about it until Gary does something, basically, is what he's on. He's like, he ain't did nothing to hurt nobody, so we ain't worried about it. Little do they know, yes, he did. He jumped on Frank. And Donald and Trina like, no, you need to take this matter serious. We're not playing. And their supervisor's like, well, I'm not. I don't care. He ain't did nothing yet. I ain't worried about it. He's the best employee we got. And blah, 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 blah. So now it's up to Donald and Trina to take matters into their own hand. Now, Frank, his old beat up ass, he gets in his car and he drives towards Sarah's house. However, Trina and Donald realize it may be too late. They need to do something ASAP. So they try to hack into her cameras to try to help her and warn her, but they can't because Gary has the cameras locked. So now Donald has to work his IT magic and try to get into the system. While he's doing all of that, Sarah comes home, sees her kitchen table set up for a dinner for two. So now she knows that man's in there. And of course, boom, he's in there. He tells her that he's there to take care of her and they're going to have a nice dinner and blah, blah, blah. She tries to play along with it. She tries to be cool, even though she's scared. She tries to play cool. She tries to, play cool and just try not to make any sudden or nervous moves, right? So while they're sitting there having their evening dinner, if you will, Trina and Donald are still trying to hack into the system, right? They're trying to get into the system because they know they can't get anywhere. And then Trina decides to try to call 911 and tell them there's a robbery in progress, but Donald points out they ain't going to get there. By the time they get there, it's going to be too late. So Trina like, well, shit, I might as well pull up and beat his ass myself. And Donald's like, you're not going to make it there in all that traffic, boo. This is our best bet right here. It's for us to hack into the security system and let him know that we sending the police there and that, we know what he's up to. Well, they're still having their little dinner. Sarah starts to try to play into Gary's mind games with him. And he turns on some music and they start to dance. She's still playing into his mind game. She had earlier seen a paring knife on the table. So she was already preparing what to do when she got an opportunity to. So while they're dancing, she takes the paring knife and she stabs him in his back. She tries to run away, but he chases her down. And they in the kitchen wrestling back and forth and fighting back and forth. And eventually he ends up getting her on the ground. He starts to strangle her, right? And Trina and Donald are still fighting to get into the security cameras because they can't get into him. When they finally hack into it while he over there choking the shit out of her. But when they hack in, it don't look like nothing's happening, right? They don't see nothing. And Donald's like, okay, there's nothing here. Well, as soon as he turned his head to say that, Trina's like, look. And Donald turns around and Gary's head is up. You can tell he's doing something to somebody. So she's yelling, get off of her, but he can't hear her. They realize that he disabled the mics. So he hacks, they get into the mics and Trina starts yelling for him to let go of her and get off of her. Well, by this time, Sarah pretends to be passed the fuck out. Right? She passes out. And Gary gets up, he grabs his big ass butcher knife and he tells Trina, I'm coming for you next. Right when he say that, Sarah, bow, bashed his shit in with a skillet, right? knocks him out cold. And Trina was me. Trina was like, yes, girl. Yes, girl. That's what I said when soon as she did it. Yes, girl. That's what I'm talking about, girl. She was like, now you need to get out of there. And Sarah's like, nah, I ain't going nowhere. And she was like, well, if he wakes up, she said, if he wake up, I got something for that ass. And Trina was like, I know that's right. Well, you hold that skillet there until the police get there. So the police get there. They take Gary away. He go to the hospital. Then he end up going to jail. 3 months later, you got Frank, Trina, Sarah, and Frank and Sarah's kids all at the at one house. They having a good time, wine and cheese and all that good jazz. And Trina tells Frank and them like it's beautiful to see them together, and she happy that they chilling and all this other good jazz. Well, Sarah's like, oh no, Trina says, I see that you took those security cameras down, and Sarah was like, yeah, we went old school, so they went and got a dog as a guard dog instead of the cameras. Well, Sarah think all the cameras is gone until she goes in her room to go get something, and Gary ass is in jail with this goofy looking ass beard. I'm gonna put the picture up so you can see this goofy ass beard. You can see his lace and shit. But he's in jail and he's still watching her while he's in jail. Right? And she goes to grab something in her room and she notices in the little flower pot where he put the camera in her room at, she notices something. She sees the camera and destroys it. And that's the end. That's how it ends. Gary can't spy on her no more. So that's how it ends. She breaks the camera. There's no more Gary. There's no more Sarah. None else to worry about, right? So for the notes category, it's just a few notes, nothing too dramatic, just a few notes. One thing that I want to point out is when that little security training that they was doing, if that's really what they do in home security, that shit ain't scaring nobody, bro. That shit is not scaring nobody. If you yell through a goddamn mic, hey, get out of here, the police are on their way, I don't give a fuck. If I came here to do something, I'm gonna do it. You in a camera, you're not there. You're through a camera yelling at me. I don't give a damn. If I'm already on camera, I'm gonna go ahead and take care of business. That's not really gonna deter a burglar. I know that they think it will, but it really won't. Most people, the only way you can deter a burglar is to actually physically be present with something to deter them with. Point blank in a period. So that little training class, it was garbage. The training lady, when she jumped and acted like she was scared, it ain't like he had no big baritone, Barry White voice that can scare nobody. He had a little wimpy ass voice like I got. That shit ain't scare nobody. The scene where they did the commercial part, that little scene where she met Gary for the first time, that shit was corny as hell. It was corny. I'm not gonna act like that when I meet somebody. Yeah, I understand that they said it in a way he saved her from potentially being harmed, but that shit was corny. If I meet somebody who potentially saved my life from being harmed, I'm gonna definitely be genuine, show him some love, but the way she acted was just too corny for me. And then on top of that, why are y'all, since when is it okay to hurry up and call somebody the following day after they almost got robbed or got hurt and ask them to do a commercial? Bitch, I'm still shooken up. I ain't even over this shit just yet. And you already trying to get me to do a commercial? No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Then, I don't know how Sarah or nobody else picked up Gary's crazy mentality from the jump besides Trina. Trina picked up on it from the jump. She just kind of like tried to, play it cool because she was like, maybe he's just a little, over the top. But Trina was the only one who caught on to it. She was literally the only one who caught on to it. So I don't know how Sarah didn't catch on to it. He wasn't hiding it. It was out in the open. Out in the open. Little stuff that he was doing was just out in the open. Because I would have spotted that crazy motherfucker from a mile away, baby. Oh, I would have spotted him from a mile away. Another thing I want to know is how can people not be so aware of their surroundings, not have any innate feeling when something is wrong in their house? If somebody's in my house, I can feel it. I can feel it. If somebody's in my home that does not belong, I can feel it. I can feel it. Like, literally, I'm gonna give you a good example. I was asleep one time and we had the maintenance people come. Although I knew that they were supposed to be coming, I was asleep. Before I even heard voices, I heard another footstep in this house and I knew it wasn't who was supposed to be in here. Like, when my sister comes and I'm asleep, like, my sister came to my house plenty times while I'm asleep, and my body I don't get an innate feeling to wake up or be scared because I know it's my sister. I can tell. But when it's somebody that I don't know who's in my house, my body will it can pick it up. It's like, somebody's in here that don't belong. So I don't get how Sarah couldn't feel that this man was in her house all those times he was in her house. And then your son telling you that he's seen somebody. Like, it just, that irritated, and it made my skin crawl. That she could not feel extra cameras in her house. She didn't like. She just basically felt comfortable in her home. I would have felt uncomfortable because I would have known something was wrong. The funniest thing was when Trina was in there spilling the tea to the IT guy about what she found out about Gary. It's not funny of what necessarily took place, is the way she said it. So when she was telling Donald, she was like, Gary lied. He talked about his dad's a police officer. Today ain't no goddamn police officer. He an inmate. And he an inmate for several things. He done went to jail for plenty of things, including even whooping Gary mama's ass. That it was the way she said it. It wasn't the fact that he was beating on their mama that was funny. Or beating on his mama. It was just the fact the way she said it. It was just wild. Even whooping Gary mama's ass is wild. Like I said earlier, people have no sense of surroundings. Even the littlest things you should be able to pick up on. And none of them had a sense of surroundings besides Trina and Sarah's mama. As I mentioned earlier about Gary's lace front beard, whoever did the lace did not do the lace justice, because you can still see it. And I get it, it's a movie, but baby, y'all should have made sure that lace was. And then why was the beard even necessary? I get it's supposed to show a 3-month difference, but he couldn't grow a mustache. Y'all just had to put a fake beard on him. It wasn't necessary. Y'all could have did without the beard. Let's see. What the hell took Frank so long? This is another thing about these movies that pissed me off. What took Frank so long to leave? Because, see, Frank left his house and during the daytime to try to get to Sarah. I don't know how far apart they live. But here's what bothers me. Why is it when shit kick off, it's daytime, but by the time help gets there, it's nighttime? What the hell take y'all so long to get to people? Huh? This goes for first responders and friends, because if my family call me during the daytime and say something popping off, I'm getting there before the motherfucking lights go dark. Because it was bright as hell outside. So that means an hour to 2 hours had went past before anybody got to Sarah. How? It's crazy. Another thing that bothers me is, how did Gary have such a dangerous background? His mama exposed his background to us in the beginning of the movie. So if he has such a dangerous background, how did the people that hired him, how did y'all not find that out when Trina found that out with ease? She literally researched this man and found out. She did a background check on this man and found it out. So how did y'all not find that out? It sounds like to me that jobs just be letting shit slide. Just let shit slide. I will say Trina is exactly how I would have been throughout this entire film. She kept it bliggity, bliggity, black throughout this entire film. She cracked me up. When Sarah cracked Gary over the head with that cast iron skillet, boy, the way Trina reacted is how I would have reacted. When she said, "You better go, girl," she's like, "That's what I'm talking about, girl." You know, like that. The way she reacted is how I would have reacted throughout the entire movie. Trina is me. Trina is me. But yeah, that's a little bit of the notes, a little bit of things that I noticed that kind of, raised some suspicion and red flags and things of that nature, or green flags, if you will. So, of course, when we conclude the film, we got to rate it. Once again, it's a 5-category rating system out of 25 points. I gave the storyline a 5. I said it was a great storyline because, the idea of a person in the beginning of the film just trying to have a new life and trying to take precautionary steps to keep her and her son secure, but also having that innate feeling in the beginning of, I really don't think I need to go this far with my security system, to kind of in a way being pressured in, because it's kind of her mama's fault because she didn't want the cameras, but her mama talked her into getting them. She should have stuck to her first mind and not got them. But the storyline was pretty good. I have to give it a good storyline. I haven't really seen. I know No Good Deed is similar to, like, not exactly similar to this, but like just the idea of a woman being alone and being intruded upon by a man. I'm trying to think. It's another movie that's kind of similar to this, and I can't think of the name of it. There's a movie very similar to this, but still was a good storyline. I gave the cast a 5. Everyone played their part the way they were intended to play their part. Sarah was supposed to play this timid, vulnerable, uh, widowed woman who was just going through the motions of grief, and she played her part just well. Um, Gary's character was supposed to be the psychopathic person that stalks pretty women and thinks he's more to them than what he really is. Her son Jalen, he played his part. He's supposed to be just a regular kid with a little bit of smarts, and he did that just fine. And Trina was supposed to be a real woke or very alert person, and she did just that. She was a very alert person. Um, Relatedness, I had to give it a 2 because the only two characters I can relate with was Trina and Sarah's mama, because they didn't believe in coincidence. They did not believe everything that was going on was just coincidental. But everybody else, I really didn't have a good relatedness with. I couldn't relate. I couldn't relate to Sarah at all. Damn sure can't relate to Gary. Um, and then of course I can't relate to Jalen because he was, he's a little kiddo. I can relate to him a little bit in a little bit, but mainly Trina's who I related with the most, because she was on her shit. Enjoyableness, I gave it a 4. It could have got a 5, but there was some moments that were cliche or corny that I just, some things that could have been done without. In the film, I ooh, well, how would I put it? My brain made me forget the part I was thinking about. That's how insignificant this part is, because I can't remember exactly what part I was going to say they could have did without. Um, Dang, I forgot what part it was now. Um, but another reason why I say had enjoyableness, because it gave some realism. It shed some realism on how these jobs will just give anybody a job without doing a thorough background check if they like their resume. Because had they did a thorough background check, they would have realized that this man is dangerous. You know. Um, Learning level, I gave him a 4 because everyone can learn from this movie in a sense of understanding how to pay attention to your surroundings, understanding that not everything is a coincidence, and paying attention to the red flags and the signs when they're there, and actually acting up on those things when they become present. Instead of waiting for something little to turn big, act upon it before it becomes big. And that's what this movie really was showing, is that there's nothing wrong with jumping on something before it becomes this big absolute problem. And another thing is, start learning to pay attention to your surroundings and notice when things have changed in your home and in your physical area. Because had Sarah been paying attention from the beginning, that would have never happened to her. So I had to give it a 4 because there is some learning curve and some learning levels that can be had from everyone, not just me, but from everyone. But one thing about me is, the only thing I need to focus more on is I do need to listen to my gut more. But my surroundings, my alertness is on 10. But I do say everyone can learn from this film. Everyone can learn something from this film. Even if you think you didn't learn something, you probably did. But that's it for me, you guys, on the rating factor. Based on the rating scale, this movie got a 20 out of 25. Um, I kind of gave it on the high side. A low side would have probably been like a 17 if I had to deduct more points for something. Which if I had to deduct more points, maybe from the learning level part, because for me, the only thing that I can learn more about is just trusting my gut. But other than that, but I still think it was a 20 out of 25. I think it deserved it for it to be a short film type of situation. Yeah, I would say a 20 out of 25. Um, but that's it. I don't really have much else to say about the movie besides that when you notice something is wrong, stop waiting until shit happens to make a move on it. You have to stop waiting for shit to happen to do something about it. You just have to. But I want to thank you guys for viewing. I appreciate all the love. Be prepared for some of the channel changes as they come about. Argue with your mama, your girl is out. Thank you for watching. Peace out.